Okay, so yes, we have DragonTurtleGames with us as promised. Um, Welcome. Thank you for visiting us here. It's you know what? This is the second time now that we've gotten to talk uh, like this, and yeah. Well, if you do catch our VODs, I appreciate it. VODs are always finicky things, because you're not sure. Yeah, you may see that you get views, but you're not sure from who, and sometimes it's difficult to get some feedback. But you know what? If you do that, I very sincerely appreciate that. And oh oh shoot. Okay, sorry about that, Jedi. I had there was a button I had to click. All right, well then, as you could infer, because look, obviously you all are nerds and you understand when Han Solo talks to Chewie, and you get the responses in English, but even though he's talking in Wookiee language, you can infer what we were talking about.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think everyone got the idea.
sorry. Yeah, you wouldn't know that I've been doing this for a year now. All right. Well, anyway, so the small talk aside, welcome, and I want to open up with who are you? What do you do? What's your pedigree? I know you, but that doesn't help the people who
Yeah,
are watching this now, or
who
as we're
don't?
talking about in a VOD later, or on YouTube, even following that. Can you
Mhm.
can you give us a bit of a bio?
Yeah, so my name is Robert Mariner Dodds, and I'm the founder of Dragon Turtle Games, which is a third party. It started as a third party D&D publishing company, very very small indie company, and just with Carbon 2185, we've branched out into making our own system. Again, based off of the D&D open game license, but quite a lot of it is our own. Is our own work. So I guess we're now a just a tabletop games publishing company, a small one, albeit. So we've got a Kickstarter at the moment for Carbon 2185, which is a cyberpunk role playing game we've made where we wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition style rules, but in a cyberpunk world. And there wasn't really anything that simple, at
Mm-hmm.
least for us. So we were like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's just make our own. So we did. And that was just for fun. And then we were like, oh, maybe we could sell this. And obviously, we put it on Kickstarter after a little couple of months. And people were very receptive. See, it's almost got 3,000 backers. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're at 2,988, and there's 11 hours to go,
that's right.
and it looks like you just managed to eke over your original goal.
Yeah, yeah. I think we are 1,400% funded. So yeah, we're in a really strong position at the moment because this means that we can bring more people in into the company
Yeah.
and make the book better than ever. Um, it was originally, with our £10,000 goal, it was going to be a really good book, but now obviously we have a lot more extra capital to spend on it, so it's going to be a lot better.
Yes. And speaking of that,
Hmm.
allow me to perhaps ask a question that others, out of politeness or deference, or maybe people have been bitten in the past by backing
Yeah,
something on Kickstarter. It can be a bit of a gamble, or someone says, well, I really like this concept and I invest in it, and
hmm,
and it there's something that happens, delays
yeah,
for 2 years or something along those lines. And so, holding your feet to the fire a little bit, but you know what? I know you have fire resistance. Um,
yeah.
can you, if I haven't already pledged, and by the way, everyone can see that I'm not just having pleasantries. I got in on the retailer package right up here, this big blue box, meaning
Yeah,
that
which means you're
I'm
gonna
in for
suck it in
6 core
raw.
rule books. So what can you do if I'm concerned as a retailer or as someone
Hmm.
who is an individual? I mean, looking at your website, you have published these drag and drop adventures. They've been
Yes.
out. They've been out for a while now, and now
2 years. Over 2 years.
so talk me into this. Convince me.
Okay, well, we've done 5 campaigns before this one. And a few of them were delayed, but never more than 2 months. And those were all for rather exceptional reasons, such as our writer last time being caught up in both the hurricanes that hit the U.S. Carolinas last year, and that was probably the most dramatic delay we've had to do. And then artists' personal lives falling apart. But this time around, we've got fail safes in place. If people miss their deadlines, we have people waiting in the wings, ready to step in and get stuff done quickly.
And
so
you're not going to promise a leather covered book and give us a vinyl one like a certain collector's edition, right?
No, well, we haven't promised a leather covered book.
Okay.
And we also haven't. What was the Fallout 76 pre-order that ended up being?
That was it. It was it wasn't leather. It was a canvas bag, and then when it was sent, it was canvas colored, and it was just sort of like a cheap nylon or a vinyl or something. So digitally, without your face being in front of me here, you can look me in the eye. I'll carry my weight. I'm a big dude. I'm 6'1". I'll carry my weight, and I'll say, look, hard line, man to man, as a creator to a creator, I'm investing in you as a business. You can digitally look me in the eye and speak with confidence that this project is going underway, and that this is like we are full engines ahead, steam or other power that is going to be used in our world here. Power cells.
Yeah, we are. We're good to go.
Excellent.
We've got, for the moment, these Kickstarter funds get released to us, we have, I think, 6 different freelancers ready to work on their part, like, immediately. We're not starting work with freelancers until we get paid.
Yes.
In case anything goes wrong there.
Yeah, right. Nothing goes wrong with PayPal transfers or with credit card processing and international orders.
We've actually already completed over 110 pages of the core rulebook. And we're not due to release until July. So we're actually really, really far ahead of schedule already. But we have a couple of artists, a couple of writers, including Ben Counter, who's known for his Warhammer 40k books, and Guy Schlanders, who's known for How to Be a Great GM on YouTube, and his Twitch streams as well. He's fantastic. So it's not just us who are on the line here if we don't deliver. There's these kind of big players that have really solid reputations that have completed big projects in the past. And we've completed projects in the past and never had any significant delays. And we expect the same here. In fact, one of the things, once we got about halfway through the campaign, and we'd raised, I think, £50,000, we realized that our manufacturing that we had in place already wouldn't be sustainable if it continued to grow at the rate it was. And so we actually hired a full-time logistics guy to find the best printing, the best shipping, and to deal with all of that side, printing, shipping, fulfillment, distribution. So that was originally going to be me as well as writing, but now we've got a guy whose job is just that, and he's doing a really good job of it so far. He's got us some really good deals, and we're trying to get international shipping down as low as possible, because now obviously we have to print in the UK or in Europe, and so international shipping is a little higher than we had wanted. But we've still got several months of negotiating on that before we charge people shipping.
And hopefully you can navigate those waters. It looks like there's enough people that are confident. And you know what? I'll tell you. I threw out I guess what would be the hardest or the most blunt question first, and allow me to say you handled that very well. I appreciate the forwardness and the fact that it sounds like you have everything together. Like you've thought about this, and maybe maybe yourself you've also had trepidation about Kickstarter projects.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I backed Goddess on Kickstarter. Do you know that the video game Goddess?
Not
Uh,
offhand, but I backed Mighty Number Nine, and
oh man, yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
One of the other things you're doing when you're backing a Kickstarter, you're not just buying a product. It's not just a pre-order system. You're also uh, a lot of the time you're supporting a new company and you're helping a company get started. And that's exactly what all of our backers have done here. Is they've really Dragon Turtle Games has now entered another league
yeah.
in terms of publishing, thanks to all of our backers, and that is really fantastic.
It's an inspirational story as another person. I'll say in the business, but we share in the Venn diagram. We overlap in a couple areas, but
Yeah,
we don't share the same business. But I'll tell you, it's
it's very, very
inspirational to
similar.
have someone who went from making these supplement fifth edition. I don't say this to diminish it. Like this is your origin. You cut
Hmm.
your teeth in Drag and Drop Adventures, fantasy
That's right.
setting, fifth ed. This is bread and butter, like solid storytelling stuff, and it's amazing to see how you've grown. And I'll tell you to also soften my first question there on the back end. I went into your Twitch streams. I watched you all play. This isn't secret. This isn't behind closed doors. If people want to communicate with you and if they want to watch content, you
Hmm.
update your Kickstarter regularly. You're very
Every day.
communicative, and in fact, not just through traditional methods, but well, is Discord traditional anymore? But
I don't
still,
think so.
you're responsive on Discord as well, and I see that your Discord
Yeah.
channel's been growing. In fact, if you do want to drop a link to that in our chat, and if you want to drop it, of course, on our Discord too, you're welcome to do so.
Yeah, I'll
But I would
find the
urge
link.
any of you to get in on that.
We try and be as open as possible, and transparent as possible. Obviously, we can't tell everyone everything all the time. Um, I just dropped the link to the Discord in the chat there. We can't tell everyone everything all the time.
Yeah.
There are some things we can't answer or say, but I think we go a little further than most publishers in our transparency.
I have been very happy with that, which is all the more reason I wanted to ask that question because in my heart I knew the answer, and to hear it coming from you and we're resonating, that made me feel really happy and comfortable. Um,
Yeah, I mean, community is so important. So important, and it's so important for people to trust that they can have a direct line to you. I know in the early days of Dungeons and Dragons, Gary Gygax's phone number was in the phone book. He would actually take phone calls from people daily, answering Dungeons and Dragons questions.
that's a good spirit to carry forward in the future, especially if we're talking about a society that is, um, well, it's only 100ish years from now. Well, I mean, a little bit more,
160 something.
it is. It maybe isn't as personal as even now with us and our technology. We're all connected, but we're still separated
Yeah,
by this.
yeah. It continues that trend of closer connections but further separations.
Before I get into asking you a couple questions about what are the meat and potatoes of your system or of that, I wanted to ask a couple questions about the creative process, and I would
Hmm.
urge if any of you in chat have questions that you wish to ask. You probably saw where Daly said I want to back it just to get the Klaus Whitman artwork since it's
Oh,
amazing.
Klaus is so fantastic.
There's a couple questions that I took off of some other channels that I'm in because I was talking about this interview.
Hmm.
And let me go over to it here real quick. Here we are. Um, what other games did you draw inspiration from when designing your mechanics? And in an addendum that was quickly added after that, um, of those, what aspects did you value and what did you try to avoid?
That's a really good question. A lot of people expect it to be inspired by Cyberpunk 2020 or Shadowrun, but frankly, we actively avoided taking anything from any other Cyberpunk system because we felt those systems were good. They're good. They're very good systems. They're fantastic, but they weren't the system we wanted. Um, you know, and we wanted to do our own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually took most of our inspiration from Dungeons and Dragons 5th Edition, which
Okay.
is the kind of core gameplay, how it's all structured, how it works, and the kind of the mindset behind that, which is kind of simplicity, ease of play, high customization. Um, you know, these are the core, and of course, ease to learn, right? Because there's a hell of a lot of excuse my language. There's a heck of a lot of
How dare you, sir?
oh no. I'm gonna get tried by the Victorian police. There's a heck of a lot of new players who have only played 5th edition, and this is a really simple transition for that. But I also play Pathfinder regularly. Depends on my work schedule, either once a month or once a week. And I also play Traveller, the old version of Traveller. I haven't played the newer versions. Played the Traveller from the 80s, and I love it. And elements of Traveller, there's quite a lot of elements of Traveller and Pathfinder and 5th edition. We took all of our favorite parts from those systems and kind of Frankenstein them together, as well as creating our own systems as well for Carbon 2185. We didn't look at any D20 modern or anything like that because again, we didn't want to subconsciously steal people's ideas.
Yes, and I imagine as a creator, you are very you tiptoe very delicately through even possible copyright or trademark infringements.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we were concerned about the title of the game, which is Carbon 2185, a cyberpunk role-playing game. Because obviously, Art House Orion Games has a copyright for Cyberpunk. But we actually have their full endorsement. You know, they even tweeted a couple of weeks ago saying, "Hey guys, if you want to play Cyberpunk 2020 in a 5th edition world, you know, pick up the Night City Sourcebook and Carbon 2185." So those guys were on board as well, which is fantastic. It's a real kind of honor to have that endorsement.
That is, in fact, early on, because obviously I've been following this project as a spectator. When the news dropped that the term cyberpunk was copywritten, that what it's like saying like Old West as a genre is copyrighted.
Yeah,
but
there was quite a bit of panic in our Discord.
But I'm glad they're on board, and you have their blessing. I guess if we add another set of expectations to not let down in order to give you that boost to fill your sails with wind, then there we go.
Yeah, well, I mean,
go ahead.
We didn't anticipate too many problems because Art House Orion have been aware of the project since December, and CD Projekt Red have been aware of the project since I believe November, and neither had said anything to us. So, you know, so I'm sure they were fine with it, and again, they haven't said anything. Well, actually, we've got an endorsement from one of them. The CD Projekt have been quiet.
Well, I hope no news is good news. I won't curse you with what could go wrong. So
well, Klaus Whitman actually works for CD Projekt. That's his main job. So he's actually working on Cyberpunk 2020, and he worked on The Witcher 3. He helped design Siri.
I think a couple people might have heard of that title too.
They're both kind of minor. They're all right selling, I think. But yeah, so Klaus actually works for CD Projekt, so yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. We didn't know that when we approached him. We didn't. We just saw his art online.
Well then, so you have faith and confidence in yourself, in many other people on the creative side, or just in some direct or quasi direct legal representation that, you know, they're not going to chase you down. People aren't, you know, you're not going to suddenly have to shift this into a brand new direction, and people are going to feel, you know, whatever about it. And so I think this is a good transition now to move into to talk about the game. And you prompted it. You said, so this is kind of 5th ed in its approachability. In fact, this seems like this would be a good sidestep. You know, people, D&D 5e is huge. D&D is so popular right now. And so for many, this is their first and only RPG. And so this could be an opportunity for them to confidently step into another genre and use some of that skills and the storytelling that they learned in there and go in this direction. So let's... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you... Hey, thanks for backing. If you go ahead and watch our VOD of our last game, Goose Milk, who plays Rick the Brick, and Blowers Bravo, who plays Rebus, neither of them had ever played any other system aside from 5th ed.
Okay.
And they had absolutely no problem adjusting to Carbon 2185. As well, Jay Wall, in that video, it's actually only his 2nd time playing Carbon 2185, although he's quite an experienced gamer. So we're very proud of how easy it is to learn. Hey, thanks for backing as well. I really appreciate that.
Azrael gets a nice purple heart too.
Yeah, I'm going to do a rock and roll symbol there.
Yeah, oh, look at that.
So I mean, there's some really, really great. It's really, really simple for 5th ed players, and even for people who've never played tabletop RPG before. A few of our backers have said, since this quick start came out, a few people have backed us and messaged us privately and said, I've never played a tabletop role-playing game before, but, I watched Critical Role. And this seems like, but I don't like fantasy. This seems like it'll be easy to do. And really, we try and make it as simple as possible. This quick start, again, it even holds your hand through character creation, which is one of the hardest parts, I think, for new players.
And backers can receive this quick start guide, correct? So for Daly and for Azrael, right?
Free.
Okay.
Anyone can. If you go onto our website, which is www.DragonTurtleGames.com, you sign up for the newsletter, you should immediately be sent a link or an email saying thanks for subscribing, and it contains a download link to this quick start.
Excellent.
If that doesn't work, hop onto our Discord and go into the quick start chat, and buried deep in there is a link as well.
If someone finds something like a typo, is you're going to get a lot of eyeballs on this. They can message you about that.
We are very prepared for that.
Okay.
We don't want messages. We don't want comments. Because
thank you for specifying.
There's so many places you can put them. We wouldn't know where to look. So you can go to www.DragonTurtleGames.com.
Okay.
/quick start, and if you hop on there now, to show everyone, there is a form.
There we go. Yep.
If you find any errors, any typos, or you have any kind of general stuff, put it on there, and that way it's all in one place for us, right?
Yep.
Otherwise, we're looking in Discord, and we're looking on Facebook Messenger, and we're looking on Kickstarter comments, of which there's almost 1,500, trying to find these things. It becomes a logistics nightmare. So we want it all in one place. This is a very similar system to what we use for the playtest as well. So if you find any errors, and there are a lot of errors because this wasn't properly proofread before we pushed it out yesterday, and I am dyslexic, so I really shouldn't be in charge of my own proofreading. So there are a lot of errors, but please, if you think anyone else has probably seen them, submit them anyway, because somebody else might have missed them.
Yeah. And further proof that you do not exist in an ivory tower. You are not, an unapproachable, god of production of the written word or rules.
No.
In fact, I'll tell you, I didn't know that fact about you, and I think knowing that, you could even go on and inspire some other people who also have dyslexia, to see how far that someone could get in the written word. And is making, he's making his living off of it. That's rock on, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I am dyslexic, so the grammar and spelling mistakes. Computers help so much nowadays. I mean, if you read the early versions of Traveller, you'll note that the author of that game system was also dyslexic, but he did not have the privilege of
Ah.
spell check or proofreading, which we're gonna have. So it's full of errors every single page, and we are.
I love your blatant honesty about this. It's actually very refreshing. It is
Yeah,
super refreshing.
the core rulebook is going to have a couple of proofreaders working on it and an editor, so there should be very, very minimal. As well as that, we're going to do 100 backer playtests 10 weeks before we ship this, which is, again, it's going to grab any of those final errors that were missed by our proofreaders or editors.
Now, does this game have loot boxes at launch? I'm just kidding. I'm just.
Yeah, we have DLC.
Can I get the season pass? And are there like 3 different deluxe versions of it?
The season pass is $499.99.
Wow, that's a bargain on a $60 game.
Yeah.
Oh, if you can't laugh at this, you're gonna cry. All right, so I have a question. I have the quick start guide open. The first question that comes to my mind, before looking at any other rules.
Mm-hmm.
If I play Dungeons and Dragons, I know I'm getting Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
What am I get? What is Carbon 2185? Because this is the game, right? This is everyone's first blush exposure. What is Carbon 2185?
Excuse me, that's my normal morning alarm.
Oh, good morning, wakey wakey, eggs and bakey.
Yeah, I'm awake. Yes. So Carbon 2185, it's a cyberpunk role-playing game. It's set in a world inspired by Ghost in the Shell and Deus Ex and Blade Runner, and all these amazing franchises that were completely underrepresented in modern tabletop games.
Mm.
There's plenty of fantasy games out there, and fantasy is a fantastic genre. I love fantasy, but there weren't enough cyberpunk ones. Cyberpunk is very cool. First of all, it's very cool. It's so you're going to be playing as in Dungeons and Dragons. You play as adventurers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Adventuring. You don't have adventurers in Cyberpunk. You have cyberpunks, and your player characters are called cyberpunks in Carbon 2185. Actually, as far as I know, we're the only cyberpunk media that actually uses the word cyberpunk in the body of text rather than just as a description.
Oh, it's been the Romero rule of zombies in other sources. Okay.
Yeah. As far as we can tell. But yeah, the player characters are called cyberpunks. The cyberpunk is essentially someone living in this world who doesn't want to live by the rules, who doesn't want to do their job. It's 10-hour working days, 30 days a month. It's a standard contract. You get paid at the end of a 5-year contract, right?
Okay.
So in those 5 years, you run a line of credit. If you get fired, or if you get injured, or if for some other reason you cannot finish your 5-year contract, you don't get paid a penny. So you are stuck with 5 years worth of expenses and nothing to pay them with. At which point the kind of corporations come over and they say, okay, well, now you work for us unpaid until you pay off your debt. So cyberpunks are the people who don't like the system. They want to go back to the old days of democracy, of world governments, and they're just general rebels.
And so the struggle is, instead of in a fantasy setting where it's the unknown wilds because technology and development isn't there, or you have monsters like goblins and whatever, it's us. We are the struggle. We are the monsters. And instead of going into the unknown forest, the haunted forest next to the old wizard's tower, you might be struggling in a day job you hate under the wizard's tower that's a megacorp, like skyscraper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact is, in your kind of traditional fantasy games, the big bad, the evil villain is often something like Tiamat, or a cult who wants to summon someone to destroy the world, or something like that. And those are great for fantasy, but
Mm-hmm.
in Cyberpunk, the villains are just people, and they are people that could reasonably exist now. And I think there's enough evil people in the world as it is, that you could. It's so easy to imagine a world run completely by these uh, egotistical, money-obsessed dudes. And there's only one mega corporation that has a female CEO, so they are mostly dudes.
Okay.
Uh, the world is
So
not
this is a perfect platform for social commentary.
Yes, the world is
Even if
not
it's
kind.
sort of through the filter of a dystopian future, this could allow us to explore some of these topics ourselves in our modern IRL lives.
Yeah, our modern world, I think it's every kind of 10 years or so we get more tolerant and kinder as a species. I think in general. Obviously there's still a lot of hate. Uh, but in general we seem to be on a good path.
So
That is
what
not
happened?
true. Yeah.
Where's the divergent point in our?
The divergent point was where the government collapsed and the you know global warming and environmental collapse caused a very very weakened political power structure where the corporations came and all of their ill-gotten gains helped them really leverage themselves into a very strong position. And they're smart. The corporations are smarter than governments, and they know that the best way to control a populace is to have them fight each other.
Okay.
So, although you're looking at the world of 2185, it's less welcoming, it's less kind than it is today.
Mhm.
You don't have equal rights. You don't have, gay marriage and all these wonderful things that we have now. That's gone. That is gone. And the world is awful, and the players are the exception, right? We don't want people playing as sexist or racist or homophobic characters. They are playing as good characters in an evil world.
This is to use the parlance from Firefly, like you're supposed to be the big damn heroes.
Exactly. But a hero in Cyberpunk is not really as black and white as it seems. For example, Blade Runner is one we mentioned before. The hero in that was Deckard. But if you think about it, Deckard's job was hunting down and executing escaped slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the hero.
Yeah, and he's following the law, right? I am the law.
He's a good guy in that movie. But if you really think about it, his role was atrocious. What he was actually doing. And sure, they killed a few people, but the people they killed were, I think for the most part, slave owners. And that's the same in this. Everything's very black and white. You might think you're the heroes until you can reach a certain point where you're playing. You're like, hang on, are we the bad guys?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that there is that potential for humans to make that mistake and not realize what they're doing is evil. Like, I'm sure there's so many people that have watched Blade Runner and just rooted for Deckard the whole way through and never really thought about it.
Or just the culture shifts. I mean, how we see what was acceptable to our grandparents is not necessarily acceptable here.
Mm-hmm.
And so with this, this game does touch on issues of humanity that for some might be hot button issues or can be the cause of very vivid, or some might even say toxic arguments and conversations.
Yes.
But the game, I'm presuming the game isn't meant to be a social commentary, or it's not meant to endorse it's not meant to endorse a political affiliation or
we keep politics out of it as much as possible, which is hard to do given the kind of almost cyberpunk political climate we're in now.
Well, similar to the theme, what stands out at me is if you're allowing for that arena, right? You're describing that this is a person versus person in the culture in a way that can reflect on the players to confront these issues and to roleplay, to roleplay thinking in a different way than you wouldn't, whether it's good or bad. and it makes a supposition. Here's the setting and the theme. Now either challenge it or accept it and promote it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? With our playtest, we had we had a few groups that were either completely or predominantly played by groups of LGBT people. They most enjoyed playing as LGBT characters, fighting the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shooting horrible people and sort of thing. Because I think that's something a lot of people can't do in their day-to-day life, is that there are these systems in place that you can't really fight, right?
It's an outlet. It's a form of escapism, but especially in a social setting, and this is why I like tabletop. I'm biased given my profession. This is why I like tabletop above even video games. It's social. You can learn and converse beyond just, playing a World War II shooter can be very cathartic, but to me it's not the same as being able to sit down with other people, especially if you have someone who has a different set of whatever from you, genetics or preferences or lifestyles or religion or whatever. You can sit down with them and interact with them in a way that you may never have before. And I enjoy that, and you know what, I will not apologize for not getting into the nuts and bolts of the playtest just yet, because at least to me, and hopefully you agree, we'll talk about the system here. I want to know why I should play this game. What dice I roll, that's kind of important, but I want to know the soul of this game, even if it's set in a soulless husk of a society. I want to be compelled. I want you to stoke the fires of my imagination. And if you're saying that we get to step up, we get to be the big damn heroes, we get to fight the system, whatever, or I imagine, let's say we want to run a party of corporatists, or whatever the terminology would be. We could be the enforcers of Megacorp X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, and you can do that. Everyone likes to play a bad guy every now and again.
That's like playing an evil character in D&D, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't actually have alignment. We got rid of that completely because there was no use for it at all in this game.
So chaotic evil isn't corporate enforcer, right?
Anyway. Yeah.
All right. So let me. If I have you for a little bit more time, do you still have?
As long as you want. I will quickly say we are aware that Pinocchio with one N. That was a typo.
Okay. So there you go, everyone. I've had this up here. This was actually what I wanted to step on next. It's not just a set of rules and dice. You are also going to build the lore, and that includes, especially if we're also street level. I mean, I imagine you could buy some really advanced tech, but if we start off as street level, cyberpunks, we have lingo. I mean, our different street cultures and whatever, we have lingo. And I love the fact that you've been developing this aspect where there are nicknames for things. In D&D, like, we might call something a gobbo for short for goblin, but you're never going to see gobbo in a printed material. Here, you're going to call someone a real rat, or you're going to call someone a Pinocchio. And you're encouraging, get into the mentality, get into the system, get into the culture, and become your character as you.
I personally love language. I'm not very good at language. I obviously speak English as the first language. I know a little bit of Italian. I know a little bit of Cantonese, which is what they speak in Hong Kong and Macau. And I speak a few different languages, only very small amounts, but one of the most important things with languages is slang. It's one of the first things you learn because it's really important for communication. And a game like this without any slang is completely soulless.
I would agree. I was just personally, I was very happy that you've been incorporating this.
We have a lot more slang than what's in the quick start, but this is only a quick start.
So you've addressed a couple of the issues. I'm on the world of 2185 here in the quick start, and so I wanted to have that as a conversation, not necessarily prompt you of what is here. What is Carbon 2185? What is the Game Master? What is... We can read this in the document. I want to hear your voice. I want you to speak from your soul about this, and as the conversation flows. And hopefully I'm asking questions that other people have, whether they're current now or... Daly says Diadems is a real rat.
Real rat was actually recommended to us by Goose Milk from our playtest VOD. She came up with that one. I think it's actually used now. I don't know where, but she assures me it's real slang. But I liked it, and it felt very dystopian. It felt very cyberpunk, should I say?
Well, and if you're scrappy, like, you don't want the corporations use official language and all that. Mm-hmm. If you're going against them, you need to use words and terms that can't be picked up on, internet searches or just it's your own homebrew here. Mm-hmm. I am now getting a little bit into the crunch. We've waded through a bunch of fluff here. And this could be a good springboard into the crunch. Another question that was asked of me to ask you. What is the core mechanic? In other words, how are skill tests and other things resolved?
That is the same way as Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
D20.
Yeah, D20 plus your modifier plus your proficiency if you're proficient in that skill. It's such an elegant solution. When we first started work on Carbon 2185, it was using the 5th edition rules. Mm-hmm. And then we tried to make our own system for it. We just couldn't come close to the elegance of 5th edition, so we switched back.
And you know what? That is going to make that sidestep easier, or the sidestep into Carbon 2185 from D&D, or even if people have played 4th Ed or 3.5, any of these D20 systems, or Pathfinder. You say you play a lot of Pathfinder here.
Yeah, I play a lot of Pathfinder. I don't like it as much as 5th edition, but I play more of it than 5th edition because that's what all my friends play.
Yeah, Pathfinder is more convoluted. I'm not saying that I'm not trying to rabble rouse Paizo. They're a respectable publisher. I sell their goods as a retailer. Yeah. I'm on board. It is, but it's definitely not a slim down.
It's not friendly. I don't think. I remember when I first played it, I was a bit overwhelmed. As you see on the bottom right of page 7, our saving throw system is actually much more like the Pathfinder saves rather than the D&D 5th Ed saves, where we didn't feel there was a need for 5 or 6 different saving throws. We felt that the kind of 3 base saving throws that were in Pathfinder and 3.5 were more than enough. So again, that's actually something we've streamlined from 5th edition. Some of the stuff we've actually made simpler. Some of the stuff we've made more complicated. So this was something, we figured that Fortitude, Reflex, Mind covered every scenario. And
I'll say, even in our workshops that we run here on this channel, that topic has been brought up as a home rule that DMs can use to go back to a similar system, or even with 4th edition where you had 2 different stats feeding into each of the 3 saves, and you just kind of went with whichever one was higher.
I think that 5th edition was a masterpiece and is still a masterpiece almost 5 years later. But there are a few things they did didn't make any sense
to me. In a general mechanical address, I think to the audience that is going to be watching this, we're going to understand a lot already. We've talked about other similar systems, and we're distilling it now into Carbon. Do you prefer Carbon or the whole title of Carbon 2185?
Either, whatever you prefer.
Okay. Then what is one departure point? You talked about the saves, but saves are kind of across the board. Is there one thing in the rules that you're proud of, that is, this is a standout, like this is a cool, unique to my system. I'm making hand gestures because I think that's more evocative of what I'm trying to get. Like, what's
really,
the panache?
Really proud.
What's a linchpin, or what's a cool? Oh, I never thought of incorporating a rule like this, not just for the sake of rules, but
you've had the playtest document in the past, right? I think I've sent it to you. Not the quick start, but the actual playtest. Our kind of one of the best rules, I think, is our background generation, which is not in the playtest because we didn't want to spoil. Not in the quick start. We didn't want to spoil everything. It's a very, very organic system for generating backgrounds for the characters. Again, Pathfinder lacked a background system. 3.5 lacked a background system. It had a very, very, very simple background system that was somewhat putting people into boxes. We have a very organic, very, very fluid background system that kind of generates that's based on the one found in Traveler, which I actually recently found out.
I was just going to ask, can I die before my level 1 character is created?
No, you can't.
Oh, well, come on. I thought you were taking the best aspects of Traveler and...
So the Cyberpunk 2020 life path system was actually also based on the Traveler background generation, which we didn't know. We didn't know about the life path system when we did ours, but there are some similarities, which was actually just pure coincidence because we're both drawing from the same sources. Which is kind of crazy. It shows that it's just a really good system.
Well, I'm happy with your answer and the fact that you are leaving it as a bit of a tease.
Yeah.
It's more to look forward to, and I wouldn't want something that is crucial to the character is what makes the game. I mean, you have the GM obviously, but not to spoil too much and to build that anticipation and to if you are going to have something that goes, I guess, beyond the simplicity of 5th ed, having something as meaningful as a background, who is your character? Or as I say in our workshops when we make characters, your background puts your character into your character. It helps you make decisions. It helps you understand you're not a human barbarian that's also an entertainer. You came from a family. You grew up. You did things. Get into your character and don't treat it like a pile of stats. You can if that's the way you want to run, but here's an opportunity to really,
there are multiple ways to play it, and I think that some people enjoy just stats on the page, but I personally enjoy getting the role playing. My wife, for example, she had no idea what her character was going to be like when we tested the background generation system. So she rolled and she did a couple years earning some money, working for a corporation. And okay, that's cool. Let's roll again. You got fired from the corporation. She was like, okay, well, then I'm going to turn to a life of crime. So then she became a criminal for X amount of years, and then a bounty hunter. And then suddenly she had this character backstory of like 15 years where she was working, became a criminal because she got fired, became a bounty hunter because she was sick of the criminal lifestyle. And that was just all organic. And 15 minutes beforehand, she had no idea what her character was going to be like.
Yeah.
But then she had a completely fleshed out character very quickly.
I love it. System. And I may be biased because of the type of work that we do. It's a D&D channel on Twitch, but it's really, the heart and soul is that investigation, that creation, and that investment, that personal investment in your character and your story.
Yeah, all our playtesters have loved it. One of our playtesters, Scott, he was kind of generating a character, and then his character got fired from their job, and of course was fired without pay. But then his passing gift was, an energy drink, a can of energy drink. It was like, oh, thanks for your 4 years of service. Here's a can of energy. So then he started the game with a burning hatred, not just the character, but the player, with a burning hatred for the corporations, and specifically his previous employer. And that is something you don't get with other background generations. You don't get these kind of riled up emotions so early on.
Daly asked a question in chat. So it looks like technology replaces wisdom and people replaces charisma. Are they similar to the two attributes they replace, or is this going to be completely different?
They are quite similar.
Okay.
Quite similar. Technology, we needed a technology skill. Because how good you are with tech is going to play a big part of the game. So it's not too similar to wisdom. Wisdom's predominantly a spellcasting feature in 5th edition. So we don't have spells, but we do have tech, and tech is a part of everyday life. So it's a very important stat.
Mm-hmm.
People and charisma very, very similar.
Okay.
The actual skill list is quite a bit longer in Carbon, but there are ways to get more skills than in 5th edition. But yeah. They are and they aren't.
In scrolling down now, so I'm looking at the Badlander, and then after that we have the corporate kid. Are we presuming that we don't have gnomes and dragonborn and tiefling?
Correct.
We're presuming the bodies. Well, I guess that might be a little dangerous in a cyberpunk world, but everyone's a human, right? Our chassis is a human being, and so really any differences come down to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The one exception is if you want to play as the synth,
okay.
Symphatic, which is essentially a replicant. That is an option. It is not an option in the quick start, but it is an option. And they're not quite as overpowered as replicants, but they are pretty cool. They have their own features. But Carbon 2185 takes place in our world, just in the future.
If this doesn't, I don't want to spoil anything, is this almost a throwback to old editions of D&D where a dwarf was your race in your class? Like if you play a synth, is that your race in your class at the same time?
No, it is not. You can be a synth enforcer, or you can be a synth, scoundrel, or anything like that.
Oh, cool.
The synths, they have a slightly different background system to everyone else, for obvious reasons, and stuff works a little differently for them. They're for kind of players that want a more mechanical, crunchy game. They're a little bit more complicated than the other origins, as we call them.
Okay.
So the origins, they affect your appearance. Some of them, others do
not. In looking at the Badlander, then whether we're a synth or a human, these are like your classes. And I don't keep dragging this over to D&D because I want to take the spotlight off Carbon. I want to provide avenues of thought and similarity of, if you understand this, here's the translation.
In traditional fantasy RPG terms, these would be your races.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So your origin, where you grew up, how you were raised, has an effect on you physically, which is true in real life.
And that's why you can get resistance to radiation, because that's where you grew up.
Yes, you grew up in the radiation.
By the way, I love the one scary dude. Give some bonus points to whoever came up with that as the feature.
That was me.
The feature. Oh, that was you? Okay, well then.
That was mine, yeah.
Give yourself a cookie or something, because that was I like that. Because look, if you're keeping it colloquial, if you're keeping it approachable, it doesn't sound austere, it doesn't sound rote or mechanical.
Yeah, we try to keep some stuff cool and fun.
Humor. I know you want to. You generally want to present it's kind of a soul crushing, mechanical, dystopian future, but just as we talked about before, if you can't laugh at something, you're gonna cry.
Yeah.
Having those moments of humor, or having those moments where you can still crack a smile, that's powerful.
Just totally imagined that is something someone might say on the street. Oh, that guy's one scary dude. Or she's one scary dude. Dude's gender neutral in the future. So
well, yeah.
Corporate kid is another one. Obviously, that's not what they're officially called on paper, but someone raised in a for-profit orphanage by the corporations, right? So they call them corporate kids. It's slang. all of these origin um, headers are just slang.
Hmm.
You know, like a popsicle, for example, is someone who's been in cryostasis. It's derogatory,
Yeah.
but that's just what people call them. Technically, I guess they would be called, cryoborn or something like that.
Yeah.
People call them popsicles.
That creates a level of intimacy where you have a group of friends that is comfortable with in-jokes or whatever, and so it brings you into the culture and the mindset.
Yes.
If you can look at someone and call them a popsicle, that we understand, and I think we could exacerbate that into
it's a slur.
people saying dog whistles or whatever. Popsicle, I think, is very harmless. Especially in a fantasy setting here, but it creates that level of intimacy that I really enjoy, where everyone's in on this. Like you have to be in this together, otherwise you're gonna die, or you're gonna get enslaved, or you're gonna be sold for body parts.
Yeah, I mean, most popsicles
404
don't like being called popsicles, because it's an insult.
Yeah.
But that is just what people call them. There have been plenty times in human history where certain groups of people have been just referred to by everyone by a certain term that they don't like themselves. But again, it goes back to that. It's not up to the people whether they like it or not. They control things.
And
it's not a nice world. Everyone's rude and everyone's sarcastic.
And that goes back into the social commentary without being ham-fisted. It does make that point. People use language that others may not like. In fact, it could even be crude or hateful or hurtful or something, but it still happens. And so, fine. To me, you're a popsicle. We'll stop being a popsicle and step up and get into the world. Thaw out or whatever we could use the language to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Or conversely, I could learn to be a better person in a bad world. Don't succumb. Don't be the thing you're trying to. Or whatever, like, don't be the monster you're trying to hunt, if we want to use kind of fantasy terms or something.
One of the cool things about popsicles specifically as an origin is that, as per our law, the tech has been around since the 80s, but it wasn't kind of made public until the 2050s or so. So you could reasonably play as yourself in Carbon 2185. You could say, I signed up to some program where I'd get paid $1,000 to just go into cryostasis for a week, and then you wake up in 2185, or something like that. So you could reasonably play as yourself.
And you're saying I can run a Futurama campaign?
Yes. Yes.
Filled with wacky adventures and.
Theoretically, yes, you could do.
I like that, and especially because whether you meant it to or not, to me, that's coming across as sort of a fourth wall breaking nod and a wink. Like, hey, come on, we know generally who's going to be looking at picking this up, and if you want to have nostalgia about a future, a dystopian future, this would allow you to get involved. I like that, sir.
Yeah, we actually did intentionally look at Fry when we did.
I love it.
That. We intentionally looked at Fry, and we also looked at other similar characters. For example, Takeshi Kovacs from Altered Carbon. He wakes up 250 years after he was put down, but he's in a new body. But we don't have that kind of tech yet. So the closest you can get to that story, and it's basically the same story, is just waking up at a different time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. It's someone out of time in this new, strange world.
And that offers another good way to roleplay too, because as a storytelling technique, it's usually like the alien or the outsider, the visitor to the culture that allows us to explore our own culture. And this is something different.
Audience surrogate.
And I'll tell you, with the popularity of books, well, now turned into a movie of Ready Player One and things like that, we can draw also inspiration. So if we're having trouble thinking in a mind like this, we can be Ready Player One. We could be Futurama. We can bring these elements in that we're comfortable with, and springboard into this world and this concept. Oh, are you there? Oh no! Did we have a, The corporations have caught onto this conversation, everyone. They're interfering. There are currently enforcers on their way. Send help. No, DragonTurtleGames. Well, you know what? Until he can come back here. Oh, hey! Daly just said that you hit 3,000 backers. Yeah, congratulations. Yep, down to 10 hours to go. Well then, until he can resist the corporate enforcers that have severed the line of communication between us as we're conspiring, we're talking about the culture, bringing down the man, or, as he said, you could work for him too if you really want to. I don't know. You want to be a sellout? Come on now, social pressure. Oh, hey, welcome back, Nemi. Quick, real rats, let's get those Wesleys. Hey, Jedi, you're getting into it. Oh, I love it.
Hello, I'm back.
Hey! Oh, all right. I was worried that the corporations were listening in and they're trying to break up our.
They took me down. I had a whole corporation team show up. I had to deal with those guys, but now I'm back.
Welcome back, and by the way, as Daly said, you just hit 3,000 backers.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And Jedi Crusader says, "Quick, real rats, let's get those Wesleys."
Yeah, man, Wesley's the crush addicts.
That was I like that. You didn't get a tweet or anything from Will Wheaton at all, did you? Because that would be an interesting a little bit of interesting exposure as well.
Maybe we should at him.
Hey, what's the harm? Well, all right.
Yeah.
I guess there could be huge harm. Maybe. I think he'd take it in good humor, though.
I think he would like it if he saw it. I'm sure he gets acid all the time on Twitter, though.
Probably, yeah. It might be finding a needle in a stack of needles, but
yeah. Well, I'll tweet that out. Probably in about 4 hours or so, and if everyone wants to retweet it, that might help.
Hey, wink, wink. Yeah,
we'll see. Yeah. So he's Wesley's crush addicts. Also, this Vices table you're looking at now, we know that it's a 2d20 table that has 41 options. We know that. That completely, for some reason, we did 41, thinking that 2d20 was 41. But we don't know which ones to remove.
Now, coming from someone who hasn't published before, I think it would be interesting if you just kept it at 41 and people had to figure out what to do. Where's the glitch in the matrix, or how do we square this up? And you just leave it in there for the players to decide, and I'm sure you'll get some very creative responses. That said, if you pare it down to 40, that's totally understandable. But yeah, that's.
We just I don't know what happened there, to be honest. I don't know what happened there, but it did happen. There are 41 options on the 2d20 table.
So option number 25 is I never asked for this. Wink.
Yes. Yeah, there are quite a few references throughout to various things, such as Vice 22.
I make origami animals that leave them wherever I go. Is that is that a reference to Rain?
It is a reference to Blade Runner.
Oh, I'm sorry, to Blade Runner. Okay, I was thinking in a video game. I was thinking of the origami killer from from Rain.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of
Heavy Rain.
Cyberpunk references throughout.
So again, more nods and winks and a little bit of fourth wall poking and prodding.
Mm-hmm. See, look, if you look at number 6 there, I'm addicted to Crush. You can even play as a Wesley.
Oh yeah. And if I go more than 24 hours without it, I suffer withdrawal.
Some of these vices are really difficult. Some of them are a walk in the park, so it's a luck of the roll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I practically worship one of the corporation's CEOs.
That was inspired by the Reddit Elon Musk subreddit, which is almost like an Elon Musk cult. And I was like, dude, this is going to get so much worse in the future, where corporate CEOs have even more power.
Is social media still a thing then in Cyberpunk,
yes.
or in Carbon 2185?
Yeah. Yep. Again, that's number 11. My pocket computer means everything to me. I have to check it every 5 minutes for updates on social media and my favorite internet personalities.
Sounds like a dystopian present.
Yeah. Some stuff never changes. Once you've established something, it doesn't change.
Yeah, it is really just ingrained in the culture across parallel, realities and universes, huh? Equipment. I mean, this looks kind of like the standard Chapter 5. There's different, different things.
Yeah, different prices. It gives you an idea of the kind of hyperinflation and the difference in price between kind of high-end gear and really low-end stuff. Armor and weapons. Armor is interesting because we've added damage reduction to most armors.
Okay, so unlike 5th edition, which is just it's hit or miss. Well, mechanically, it's hit or miss.
Yes, it's hit or miss. Plus, then you have damage resistance because of bulletproof technology.
That makes sense.
Most armors offer some degree of damage reduction, which is DR / to a ballistic damage. For example, the TC body armor offers damage reduction free ballistic. That means when you get shot by a weapon dealing ballistics weapons, you take 3 damage less than the total. For instance, if you take 6 damage from a hit, you take 3.
Okay.
Because your armor absorbs some of it. And it's because guns, as you'll see on the next page, are super lethal. The idea is, if you're not wearing armor, you will die very quickly if you get shot, just like real life.
That was a direction I was going to be going in. So you are 2 steps ahead, sir. Hit points are in D&D. It's kind of it's a conglomeration of maybe your willpower to fight, and it's your health, and it's some things. But many of us just narrate. Well, if I hit you with a sword, you take 8 points of damage. Well, you have 100 hit points, so that means I have to hit you. I have to hit you over 10 times with a sword, and where we compare reality to a fictional, a role-playing game. I mean, that's kind of but I think we do consider there's an unspoken taboo, like, well, no firearms in D&D because everyone seems to recognize how deadly firearms are. And so everything just exists on the cusp of black powder, at least anecdotally to me. Despite there being fireballs and magic, but still they hold a mystique.
That was one of the hardest things for us, was to kind of work out a way to make firearms, getting shots, certainly early on, getting shot to most of the time kill you or seriously injure you without, people dying in every firefight. So that's why we added the damage reduction, and very expensive armors even have resistance to ballistic damage.
Between Nemi and Crossev here, it says so. Crossev says so. No fire. Maybe not in the quick start, but are you going to have some exotic stuff like flamethrowers or?
Yes.
Okay. And then
Nemi, flamethrowers, fire bombs, Molotov cocktails.
Nemi's looking for stuff like missiles or like some mini guns, like the heavy armament. Are you going to have like power armor and things like that will be available?
So there will be power armor, and there will be heavy weapons. As you see here, we've got melee weapons, pistol, submachine. So 5th edition is simple melee, martial melee,
right?
Simple range, martial range, right? We've actually added more categories to that. So we've got melee, pistols, submachine guns, shotguns, assault rifles, combat shotguns, right?
Okay.
but not in this quick start. We also have sniper rifles, grenades, and heavy weapons. So yeah, there are heavy weapons. There are miniguns, there are flamethrowers, there are grenades. Just not in the quick start.
And that's understandable, because that's exactly what this is. Just that here's the idea. There will be more, and it'll be an expansive list, and so I could be I could mod myself to be a living tank. I could have, if I want to go guns heavy and I want to just blow up whatever's in front of me. Presumably, in the full edition, I can work towards that and just be.
Yeah.
I could be Iron Man, or I could be War Machine. Probably even more appropriately.
Exactly. We also have their ammo is just simply ammo clip and 21st century bullets. There are different ammo types in the full version, but we don't have those in the quick start because it was just unnecessary for a quick game. You'll also see some weapons have a second damage to them, like a standard assault rifle does 2d8 /1d8. Now that is if you use the spray action, which assault rifles and automatic weapons all have the ability to spray, which is a cone effect rather than one target.
Okay.
There's a brief explanation underneath it there. Essentially, you just it's like cover fire, right? So you pick an area and you just shoot blindly into that area, and everyone has to dive out of the way.
Moving on to touch on things here, augmentations. Is this kind of like again stepping to the side of D&D? Is this like magic weapons? Like
they fill two roles actually.
Okay.
Augmentations fill the role of both feats and magic weapons.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we they fill both of those. Certain weapons, certain ones act like feats, certain act like magic weapons. For example, the enhanced aiming Mark 1 by ZA Corp. You can zoom your vision up to 1.5 times. Okay. And you have a +1 to hit with A attacks, provided you can see the target.
Okay.
So it's essentially targeting software and new eyes, like Batal from Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it's a bit more... It gives actually a bit more options than magical weapons, because they're tied to one weapon. Some of these are for anything.
Holographic clothes. Can I get a self-drying jacket? or shoes that tie the... I guess those would be like wondrous items here.
Yeah, we don't have... we haven't got anything statted up for those, but it is within the realms of possibility.
Do hoverboards work on water in 2185?
Well, flying cars are like spinners are certainly a real thing. They haven't got as small as hoverboards yet, though.
Okay.
You can go as small as a motorcycle.
Okay, I like that you merged that, and I think thematically that makes sense, because magic items in D&D are kind of an extension of the user. They enhance the user, and they're employed like more mundane versions. And of course, feats just make you more specialized. So I like that you pineapple pen them together.
Yeah, I think it was the best way to do it.
Moving on then to touch on this. This does the core story takes place in San Francisco.
Correct.
But obviously the world is
very different.
Yeah, the world has come together, but not in the best way, right? Because we're talking global megacorps. Do you want to touch on like why San Francisco, or because you did reach some stretch goals in the Kickstarter here? It looks like you have like there's a London 2185. There's a couple other
Manhattan,
environments and Tokyo.
Yeah. So London, Manhattan, and Tokyo are all coming separately in a separate book, but the core rulebook will feature just one city, and that is San Francisco. San Francisco was a really easy choice. We didn't want to do LA because it was done a bit too much in Cyberpunk, but it's very close to LA. Culture's very, very similar. It's a very multicultural city already, and we wanted to kind of extend that. We wanted something on the West Coast, the U.S. West Coast, and aside from LA, it was the obvious choice.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Though I presume you can take the elements. If you didn't want to play in San Francisco, you want to be in Seattle or, feasibly.
Yeah.
I live in Ohio. Could I have Cleveland 2185?
Yeah,
And
most of the stuff, the actual rules of the game are not tied to San Francisco,
okay,
but a lot of the lore covered in the core rulebook it's sort of like our Forgotten Realms.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah, it's like cities are small. Um, cities are small. They're smaller than kind of your D&D campaigns, but they are pretty much when you get down to it, they are huge. If you really think about it. Like I spent a lot of time in Hong Kong. That place is massive, with so many people, and it's the same here. International travel is actually very difficult, very expensive because of the environmental collapse. Traditional planes can't cover large distances anymore, so you have to use breaching, which is where you kind of strap yourself into a kind of plane rocket hybrid, goes straight up out of the atmosphere, circumnavigates the globe, and pops back down above your destination. That was initially very cheap, and it led to mass migration everywhere. So pretty much every city in the world is a huge melting pot. A lot like London is now, and quite a lot of cities across the world. But it's this melting pot. But then the mega corporations realized, hang on, it's a lot easier to control and suppress people if they don't move around. So those prices slowly got jacked up and up and up and up and up, to the point where it takes several months' salary to afford a one-way ticket somewhere.
Yeah. And if you think about it too, in this world, we're not just talking about physical. We're not just talking about physical locations and being distant. There's a whole like a web network that you could have an adventure in. Correct.
Correct. One of the things we played around with the idea of, but it was a bit too goofy. Not goofy, a bit too fun for Carbon 2185. We played around with the idea of a campaign. It wasn't dystopian enough, in which players play as kind of dual play. They have their Carbon 2185 players, which is their real players. Those characters, those cyberpunks, then play a VR game in which they control Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition characters.
Gotcha. So D&D is like a game in a game sort of a thing.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like a you die in the fantasy, the VR world, you die in the real life. This was going to be a campaign we were working on, but it was a bit too goofy. It wasn't dark enough.
And that's something that if you put that idea in players' heads, I mean, it sounds like you've already been getting a variety of feedback. Just by merely putting something out there, people are gonna think about things and twist it around and turn it and bop it and twist it and everything, and you're gonna get so many different types of feedback or things you never thought of, just simply by saying, yeah, this could exist. And so you don't need to overcomplicate it, because you're gonna conceptually you could put a game in a game. I'm not saying you can't. But if you just sort of suggest that this other world exists, this isekai or whatever, then you're gonna get groups that are gonna play D&D. Like, they're gonna suspend Carbon, play D&D for the session to infiltrate the corporations, like sleeve back into their bodies, and then we're back in Carbon again, and we had a fun little a romp.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we thought that was a really, really cool option. It didn't really suit the kind of dark feeling we were going for at launch. It's possibly something we'll do in the future, once it's more established as a brand and people know what it is. But yeah, that was a really fun option we played around with, and we played a few sessions where characters go to VR cafes, and then they kind of jack into the network, and they play in the VR world, and then the cafe gets raided by the corpse, and they have to kind of quickly get out their real bodies, which are now kind of weak and tired from being sat in a chair for 2 days. So it's kind of there's a lot of fun options there. Yeah, and then we come to the end of the document.
I don't want to go into the minutia of how many hit points is this, because people can look at that, and I want them to sign up for your mailing list. So I don't want to show off the entire thing. We'll do a quick review of a quick start. But you do have enemies, you do have rules about dying and coming back and things like that.
Yeah, you can't come back.
Malkavian Madness, hello, Malkavian Madness. Hey, thanks for joining us. We're talking with DragonTurtleGames about his Cyberpunk RPG, which is almost at the end of its Kickstarter, the Kickstarter timer.
Less than 10 hours.
And now, if someone wants to hop on after it closes, is there still a door closes but a window opens?
Yes.
Okay.
If you go to the URL, which is bit.ly/carbonrpg, it will take you to the Kickstarter page. From there, once it closes, you'll be able to kind of hit the where it now says back this project. It will say something along the lines of join our mailing list. Join the mailing list. Again, it's the same mailing list you're on for the Quick Start anyway. But then as soon as our Pledge Manager goes live, you will be able to back on Pledge Manager. You won't get the same Kickstarter prices. Things will be kind of full retail prices at that point. But a cool workaround, you can back this for £1 now and upgrade your pledge to the Kickstarter prices, which are £35 for a core roll.
It's a foot in the door.
Yeah, because then it considers you a Kickstarter backer because you are. But yeah, so you'll be able to buy it on Pledge Manager, but that won't be for about 2 weeks or possibly up to 20 days after the end of the campaign. So you will have to wait a little bit to back it. But there's no faster way we can do that. We've tried a lot of options, but that's the fastest way we can do it. You can join our mailing list and just keep an eye on social media and Discord. And as soon as it goes up, we anticipate people will want to be able to be like, oh man, I missed this, whatever. I'll also, after this, possibly not next week, but the week after, we'll be launching a Patreon to continue our Drag and Drop Adventure series.
Yes,
which is very popular. Traditionally, we sold those on Kickstarter in sets of 4 for £20, PDFs. But we're actually going to be taking those to Patreon, where we're going to do one Drag and Drop adventure a month for I think £5 or possibly $5. I don't know if we can do it in pounds. So you'll be able to subscribe to a monthly new Drag and Drop adventure for 5th edition, which would be pretty cool.
And the Drag and Drop adventures, I mean, that you named it as such because it's a bit of a pun on Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy, but they're meant to be one-shot adventures that you could even insert into the middle of an ongoing campaign or module.
Yes.
So you just drag them and drop them in.
Yeah, they're written almost as like television episodes, in that they have a self-contained story that ends and sorts itself out by the end of the campaign, by the end of that episode, by the end of that session. And it works in any setting, any campaign, and at various levels. I think you've even run one on the stream, right?
I did. I modified it a little bit, and I'll tell you, I mean, they're kind of meant to do so, to be able to be inserted.
You should absolutely modify
in the Tuesday game, wink wink everyone, in our Tuesday RPG, I ran one of the Drag and Drop adventures as one of the ongoing encounters. If you're not sure which one, maybe I'll tell you. But this is something actually that I was going to be talking to you about, sir, is going through this, and as I would like to expand the ability to roleplay on this channel more, because we primarily do workshop. This is something that I could feature as well, and run people through these adventures. They're fun little one-shots, might take a couple hours to get through, I think it'd be a great way to for you to get the attention, and then for our community to be able to have more playtime together.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to send you any drag and drop you want. Um, One of the cool things about these is they really cut back the GM prep time. Like
Yeah.
you can prep one of these in 15 minutes, and
I
you're good for a whole session.
I wish I had opened it up here. I think we're getting towards the end of our time here, but these are really really good, and I would urge you. He's offering, I think, a very generous subscription to get these adventures, maps, color illustrations. All the homework's been done for you, and for $5 a month, it's going to a good man and a good cause.
Yeah,
And
they will be
real
nude
quick,
ones as well,
DTG.
by the way.
Um,
We're just briefly
yeah.
drag and drop monthly for the Patreon ones.
Okay.
They are the drag and drop adventures, a continuation of them, the same principles, but it's just got a much cooler name for a monthly subscription.
It's fine. Put a little polish on that.
Yeah.
So this is it's a D&D question, but maybe you can field this as well. Shuken asks, "What is your opinion on a Tabaxi Warlock, Seeker Patron, Pact of the Tomb?" I'll answer first, simply because Shuken, I'm not too familiar with the details of that patron and pact. I haven't gotten to play around with the patrons and pacts outside of what's on the player's handbook. So I can't give you build advice on either min-maxing or this is don't do it. It's horrible, or yes, this is the best thing ever. But what I can tell you, Shukan, is it's very difficult to make a bad character in 5th ed because of how thematic and fun and kind of streamlined it is. And so
it's incredibly well balanced. My answer is exactly the same. I'm not familiar with that patron or pact, but I was going to say exactly the same as you.
And actually, this is a good step back then as we wrap things up. Obviously, you want to build this system of Carbon 2185 to be, to not build this is the wombo combo. If you're not running this race and class and background, you're not even playing the game. Get out of here, you scrub. Now, min-maxing exists in role-playing, and I'm sure that people will find better combos. But is it safe to presume, like, you are playtesting for balance, but it's difficult to build a non-functional character or just a bad character in your system?
I specifically have 3 people who I send every revision to, and I say, make me the most broken, powerful character you can. And then I change it based on what they do. Because, we all meet expert min-maxers in our time. And they're really useful resources for balancing a system, because they will sniff out any option and any exploit, and they'll do that for you. So yeah, it's very balanced as we can get it. It's a big part of the playtesting is balance, and we have, like I said, specific people who just try and break the game.
Yeah, and hey, stress testing in that fashion. You may have the majority of people never do that, but for the one person who finds that ultra combo and posts it on the internet, suddenly that may raise the bar or create, well, geez, I can't keep up, or I love my character, but it's so obviously clear that this one is more functional and does everything that my current character does, but better.
You can't perfectly balance a system, but we've tried to make it so that even the stronger combinations are not significantly stronger than others, and every combination has a weakness as well. You're not going to be a guy who's an expert at everything. So,
well, sir. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just rambling.
You answered all of my questions. And I from chat and even from the other sources where I was collaborating some other questions, you answer those as well. So if anyone else out there wants to squeeze in a last minute one, I'm happy. I'm thankful that you woke up so early in the morning your time in order to hop on and talk to us and to
I have a
explain.
1-year-old, so it's not an early morning for me.
So you don't have just a digital alarm clock. You have a biological one too.
I have a human alarm
gotcha.
clock. It's very loud.
Well,
She woke me up at 3 a.m. this morning, my time, and I was like, "Oh man, is it time for the Spear and Maddie show already?" And I was like, "Wait, no."
I then in conclusion here. Then hang on. I'll hold on to that. My own thought. Jedi Crusader had a question that is yet to be answered. Gotta go in 5 minutes. Hopefully with my question.
That's it. On that note, would where the character is from affect their stats? For example, in the real world, I'm in the southern hemisphere. Does that give me any advantage, disadvantage? That is a good question, and that's what we cover with Origins. Kind of each setting has their own origins, which are kind of global as well. They function as much in the same way that a race would in a normal game. Your actual country or personal ethnic origins do not make a difference. It's a cultural difference. What is my favorite race or class combo? In Carbon or D&D, because I have two very different answers. In D&D, I am incredibly boring. Human fighter.
Okay. Bread and butter.
Boring. I genuinely believe that the human fighter in both D&D and Pathfinder on 3.5, in all three of those, is the most versatile combination you can get. I'm a big fan in Carbon of the regular Joe, which again is like a human, it's just a regular person. The regular Joe Enforcer, which shouldn't be a surprise because that is essentially a human fighter.
So even in the world of infinite possibility and digital whatever, we go human fighter. Well, you know what? You love it that much and your heart's in it.
I think that you have a lot more role-playing options when you have something as simple and streamlined as a human fighter. I like simplicity in my characters and in my games. And the more things I have to worry about, the less I'm thinking in character, and the more I'm thinking as just a guy playing a character.
And Shukan or Shukan, if it's I don't know, it'd be probably a Khan if it's Japanese. I can't really say I have a favorite. Part of that is because of what we call the DM's curse. I say that tongue in cheek because I absolutely love running D&D, but that means that I don't always get the option to play. And when I do play, I never try and play the same race and class twice. Just to,
that's an interesting
technique. I go to a buffet and I just sample a little bit of everything. So I can honestly say I haven't found it. Now, not that you, sir, are boring or bad because you chose human fighter. That's the beauty of so many different people loving the same hobby and getting together and telling a story. Shukan. Okay, thank you for the correction on that.
When I go to Pathfinder Society events and they're like, "Who are you playing?" I'm like, "Human fighter," and they're like, "Oh, you new?" Yeah, that's the reaction. Like, "Oh, you new to role playing games?" But I think no. I think that the less I think about the mechanics, the more I think in my character's mind.
If you're installing that spirit, that machine spirit, even into Carbon, then I think you are really you're on a good track, and I think you're going to see continued success with it. So thank you.
Yeah, we're talking to distributors at the moment who want to stock it worldwide, which is going to be very cool.
Yeah.
So that's quite a compliment. Some of them are pretty big guys that deal with really big brands, and that's a huge compliment. Obviously, when a distributor wants to stock your game, there's some potential there.
Yep. Well, sir, as a publisher, as a fellow geek, as a guy who's been doing this for a while, this isn't your first rodeo, and especially as a father, and how precious life is, and that you're gonna want the best, not just for yourself and your family, but especially your little one. I mean, all of these are great signs that you're working hard, and that you're communicative. You can be addressed and contacted. You're not an ivory tower, and
Well,
that
my name's
this
on
is what. And yes, and that's true. Which
my name's on it.
I'm
I'm 27 years old. If I just kind of don't release it now, or mess it up and do something terrible, delay it by 2 years, that will negatively affect the rest of my career, which is, I hope, decades to come. So there is a lot riding on us getting it right and getting it on time and not screwing people over.
Well, looks like Diadem's just backed it, and Elbrun might have as well, because he said, you got me to give the cost of a candy bar when the local gas station can't get me to buy one. So there you go, you big bully. I'll, I'm not serious about that. Well, everyone, then, thank you in the audience for your time.
Yeah, thanks for backing everyone who backed, and thanks for participating. Those who didn't back, I know not everyone can back during a campaign. It's a very short period of time.
Yeah, But
that
foot in the door is good. That foot in the door.
Yeah, the £1 it locks you in right up until when we ship
Not
it.
sure what I'm donating for, but here is $20.
Oh, Shukan, thank you very much. In fact, for that, I'll wrap things up here with. Do you want me to call you by your handle, like DTG or DragonTurtleGames, or just?
Well, that's the company name. So you can just call me Robert.
Robert, okay. Robert, thank you for your time this early morning for you across the pond.
Yeah,
and
I'm gonna go have breakfast.
Yeah, have an amazing day. Obviously, you'll see more of me, and I'm a happy backer. And I hope that all of us here, live during this interview, if you see this later on the VOD or if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be a part of it and you'll lend your voice. As this is a great up-and-coming tale of an entrepreneur, someone who, doesn't, he's just not doing this for the quick buck and turnaround, but he's invested in this in many different levels. And I'm so fortunate to know you, man.
Head to www.carbonrpg.com, and that will redirect you to wherever you can buy the game. Whether it be on Kickstarter or Pledge Manager or on our own website after launch. www.carbonrpg.com will take you wherever the game's currently being sold.
Awesome, sir. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me. It's great. It's always great to come on the show. I hope to come on in the future.
I'd love to. I'd love to pick your brain about a lot of other things too. So, all right. Well, go have breakfast. Be with your family. Come on. Day after Valentine's Day. Get out of here. What are you doing? You're talking to some scrub on the internet. Be well, my friend.
See you later. Thanks for having me. See you later. Chat. You've all been fantastic.
I hope you enjoyed that interview. I think it was fun. If this man didn't come across as genuine and really passionate, then I don't know who else could about a project. I do hope that you enjoyed this and this kind of content. And when this comes out, we're going to be reviewing it on the channel too. And you know what? If we got to put the spurs to him and make sure, like, hey, come on, this needs addressed, let's do so, because the hotter the fire, the harder the steel. And this man wants to succeed, and he has many reasons to do so. So, I'm excited.